1 year earlier, Iska took a significant risk by freeing a witch. The young girl is confused about why the saint disciple would risk his own freedom in liberating her from prison. Nevertheless, she takes the opportunity and escapes. However, Iska's endeavor doesn't go unnoticed. He's sentenced for breaking out the imprisoned witch and is stripped of his rank. A year later, the 8 great apostles grant Iska freedom in return for defeating the ice calamity witch. Before Iska sets out on his mission, he asks for Nini, Jin, and Miss to join him. The trio, along with Iska, gather inside the capital. The first to arrive is Jin, followed by Nini and Miss, who clumsily falls on her forehead before reaching them. At last, the Special Defense for Humankind 3rd Division, Unit N7, is back together for the first time in a year. The team heads out for their latest mission, to capture a purebred astral mage. The next day, the team arrives at a reactor facility where the enemy is expected to attack. While driving through the forest to get to the rendezvous point, they are ambushed by a Nebulian combat unit. Luckily, all 4 manage to escape. But without his intuition back, Iska can't beat them on his own. So Nini comes into the fray and unleashes countless missiles at the mage. Although there are only 4 of them against an onslaught of mages, Iska's team defeats them. However, another enemy appears with an earth golem. The woman is surprised by Iska's swordsmanship, but her golem can't be easily destroyed. The two begin to fight, but Iska gets the upper hand when he lands his sword on the mage's shoulder. Iska demands to know the whereabouts of the ice calamity witch, but the woman refuses to answer him, saying she would rather die. Suddenly, a mist appears, announcing the presence of the ice calamity witch, and her name is Alice, and she proves it by freezing the forest and the reactor. Nevertheless, Iska is set on capturing the witch, and so the two fight. Alice proves to be more potent than the young man, but Iska won't give up because he wants the war to stop. This remark surprises Alice, giving Iska an opening. However, he is unsuccessful, as the witch managed to stop him. She tells Iska that she also wishes to put an end to the war. But before any of them can continue any further, she slips from her position and falls into Iska's arms. Their eyes remain fixed on each other for a while. After regaining her composure, Alice calls for a giant bird and flees with Rin. The rest of Iska's squad rejoins him and inquires about the witch's power. Back home, Alice starts to ponder Iska's words about putting an end to the war. But she wants to distract herself, so she asks Rin to accompany her to the opera house in the neutral city. The play brings Alice to tears, so a young man offers her his handkerchief. To her surprise, the owner of the handkerchief is Iska. After his encounter with Alice in the Nelka forest, Iska has some sleepless nights. Miss offers to help Iska since she can't always help on the battlefield. Iska confesses his thoughts to Miss but hesitates to tell her anything else. To help, Miss invites Iska to her room for some tea and gives him a ticket to the opera. In a flashback, Iska is in the woods with his master, Crosswell Ness Lubigate. He gives Iska 2 swords to aid him in his mission. Iska wakes up in the car and tells his dream to Nini, who is driving him to the neutral city. At the opera house, Iska is distracted by another spectator's tears and offers her his handkerchief. The young woman tries to pay for it. But when the light is up, they see each other's faces. Alice becomes angry, believing Iska would follow her to the play, and quickly leaves as her scream draws a crowd. Alice and Rin then go to a nearby restaurant, but every table is booked. So, Alice and Rin must share a table with another patron. But the other customer happens to be Iska. Although hesitant, the trio sits down together and checks out the menu. Alice and Iska discover their mutual love for ben cotta pasta and other types of pasta. That night, Alice and Iska reminisced about the day's events, making it possible to fall asleep. In another flashback, Iska and his master are on a train when suddenly a group of monsters attacks the train. When the monsters caught Iska off guard, a mage with ice abilities came to his rescue. The following day, Iska and his team are in training, when Rissia from Empire comes by for a talk and some good news. Iska's squad will be under Rissia's command beginning with the next mission. She also gives Iska a ticket for an art exhibit about Sarl Vribrin in the neutral city of Ain. Elsewhere, Alice visits her mother, Miliver Lu Nebulis 8, to talk about the former's battle with Iska. Miliver is a bit alarmed by the fact that Iska's abilities were on par with a saint disciple. The Queen of the Nebulis Sovereignty tells the story of the nation's founder and her younger twin sister, Nebulis I. The women notice that the binds around the founder are breaking, an omen of her awakening. Alice realizes that Iska's appearance coincides with the founder's awakening. Afterward, Alice decides to go to the neutral city to relax. But once again, Alice and Iska run into each other, much to the former's displeasure. Trying to avoid Iska, Alice heads the wrong way and winds up in a dark alley. Nevertheless, she manages to find her way back. Once again, she runs into Iska, and the young man offers to take her to the exhibition, which Alice accepts. The duo start to bond for their love for the arts. Unit N7 is a bit overwhelmed by the materials to memorize, so Iska walks in with drinks for everyone. Rissia wants to talk to Iska at the Imperial Senate. The senators have reviewed the latest mission report and have learned much about their enemy. They offer Iska a way to clear his name and become a saint disciple once again, which is to capture the Ice Calamity Witch. However, Iska is a bit hesitant and he calls and asks Miss to let him skip tomorrow's training. Miss agrees, but under one condition: she has to come along. Meanwhile, Alice goes through the events of the other day when Rin walks in. She informs Alice about Iska's former status as a saint disciple, the youngest in history to receive the rank. In fact, Rin says that the Empire sentenced Iska for treason after he freed an astral mage. Alice inquires about the mage's identity. Suddenly, Alice's mother walks in and reminds her daughter about why they are on opposite ends of the Empire. Alice asks Rin to make preparations for the neutral city and finally find out Iska's true intentions. Iska and Miss run into Alice and Rin and introduce each other. Alice asks Iska why he would free a mage. Iska replies that the mage he released was a little girl with barely any powers, but still, the Empire wanted to imprison her. However, to Alice, Iska's motives are quite conflicting since he wanted to capture her when they first met. Iska explains that his goals aren't contradictory, and that they haven't changed. It's still a peace treaty. The only way to do that is to take a direct descendant of Nebulis hostage as a bargaining chip. And as such, both sides are forced to listen to each other. However, Alice points out that the Queen will not do anything. Thus, the only way for Iska to achieve his goals is to serve under Alice. But before Iska can give his answer, the sky starts to shatter, and a celestial being appears. The founder, the Grand Witch Nebulis, has appeared and sets out to destroy the four of them. Luckily, they all survived the initial attack. They are all confused about why Nebulis would attack one of her descendants. Iska prepares for a fight and takes out his two swords, with Alice joining him to fight against Nebulis. However, they are no match for Nebulis. Even so, their mutual desire for peace pushes them, and Iska delivers a fatal blow to Nebulis, sending her back to where she came from. Afterward, Iska gives her answer. He will not serve under Alice. Iska and his team are at the casino. Apparently, Rissia told them that since their joint mission will start soon, they have to finish their vacation. Alice and Rin are also here, but they were lucky enough not to meet each other. Alice's luck is so incredible that she hits the jackpot on her first try. So much so that she shares it with Nini. Both of them don't really know each other. Meanwhile, Miss lost all her bets. The Senate assigns Rissia a mission, but leaves it up to her to justify sending Iska's team into the vortex, a vortex of astral energy created 100 years ago that started the whole witch and demon thing. Now another vortex is going to form. They fear the sovereign might claim it, so it looks like we've got to claim it first. At the same time, Rin tells Alice about this vortex. Alice finds it odd that the Zoa family, who run that area, didn't report to her. Alice is sad that the Lu, Zoa, and Hydra families, all direct royal lines, are in conflict with each other. Alice goes to confront the Zoa family about this, but they give an excuse that it could just be underground gas, and that they were taking time to prepare documents. Miss team starts their joint mission as she introduces her teammates to Shannarat Noro Gregory, an old friend of hers from when they were serving as foot soldiers. This mission is headed by Nameless, one of the high-ranking saint disciples. He tells them to secure the vortex before the sovereignty, destroy it if they fail to do so, and not get in his way. The team goes in search of the vortex, but they can't find it. Miss then receives a media message from Shannaret, informing her about an unit that went searching for the vortex, and that they lost communication with the two other units that was sent to look for them. All the units regroup at the base, where Nameless doesn't issue an order to rescue the missing soldiers. Iska decides to question Nameless about his decision, but Nameless ignores Iska, seeing that the latter isn't the same rank as him. So Miss walks in and asks Nameless in Iska's stead. Elsewhere, Lord Mask and Kissing Zoa Nebulize IX are getting ready for the upcoming events. Alice and Rin inspect the vortex themselves. Mask Lord and Kissing are also present. Miss team finds the vortex, but it looks like Noro's team is also here. Noro reveals herself and her team to be witches because now that Miss has seen the vortex, she must die. Nameless arrives and quickly disposes of Noro's unit. Miss could have been done for. However, Noro escapes with Miss as Iska intercepts Nameless' knife that would have pierced both ladies. With Jin putting a tracker on the jeep, they can go track it, but Nameless believes the place has fallen into enemy hands. And when he returns to HQ, the bombing will begin. Shannarat and Miss arrive at the vortex, and Miss recognizes Alice. However, Rin strikes Miss on the back of the head and knocks her out before she can talk about it. Then, Alice and Rin leave to find Iska. Eventually, Unit N7 locates the enemy's base, with the intention of rescuing their captain before the Empire destroys the vortex. Iska succeeds in entering and engages Noro in combat. However, Kissing shows up and utilizes her skills to carry out Lord Mask's orders. Meanwhile, at the Imperial base, which appears to have been abandoned, Alice is waiting for Iska. When Nameless finally appears, Alice would have almost been struck if Rin hadn't intervened. Iska and Kissing fight each other, but they seem to be evenly matched. The same goes for Nameless and Alice. But Nameless retreats after Alice shows off the true extent of her abilities. Meanwhile, Kissing unleashes her full destructive force, but Iska manages to defeat her with a blow to the stomach. Iska is about to bring Kissing in when Lord Mask suddenly appears and stabs the young man in the back. The masked purebred also kicks Miss into the vortex, causing to Iska jump in after her. In order to fight the Imperial soldier again, Alice jumps in as well to save them both. But it's too late, and an explosion of light occurs. On the surface, Jin and Nini find Iska and Miss. Iska can't explain how they survived the vortex. When Alice returns home, she can't help but think back to the last time she saw Iska. Rin advises Alice to go to the neutral city of Ain, in the hopes that she will encounter Iska there. Jin is a bit disappointed that Miss let herself get captured by the enemy. Miss tries to apologize, but the rest tell her to forget about it. Rissia walks in and informs Unit N7 of their next mission, to capture the Queen of Nebulis. The team thinks it's a joke, but Rissia is very clear, and the team will find out in 3 days. Meanwhile, in the neutral city, Alice and Rin waited for 3 days without any sign of Iska. Rin believes Iska is dead, but Alice believes that he's not dead so that he can fight her, and she begins searching the city for the Imperial soldier. Rin plans to sever her ties with Iska. At the Imperial base, Miss's shoulder is still bothering her. Nini goes to inspect it and makes a harrowing discovery. There's a green symbol, an astral crest, on Miss shoulder. Miss is a bit distraught. Jin believes the astral spirit has possessed Miss' body. If Miss reveals her current condition, she'll be executed. With the team's support, Miss decides to hide her current state. Back home, Alice is a bit upset that she hasn't run into Iska. Meanwhile, Unit N7, excluding Miss, realizes the horrible situation their captain is in. Iska then gets the idea to bring their captain to the neutral city, where Miss calms down and shares a heart-to-heart moment with Iska. When Miss went out to buy drinks for the two of them, on the way to the fountain, Alice spotted Iska. They sit at a nearby bench, where they exchange a few words about the vortex incident. When Rin finds them, they are susceptible, so Alice blames Iska for their current predicament. Rin offers Iska a drink, but then Iska suddenly falls unconscious. As it turns out, Rin spiked his drink with a sleep-inducing drug. Rin wanted Iska to believe that the sovereignty was dangerous, so he would stop speaking to the princess, not knowing that Iska would actually drink it. Rin tries to take Iska into custody, but then Miss appears before them. Alice informs her that Iska is an enemy of the sovereignty and that she is harboring him. But Miss won't let them take Iska without a fight, and without knowing how, Miss impulsively unleashes her astral powers. However, Alice is too powerful for Miss, and thus she is able to take Iska. Back in the Heavenly Empire, Rissia informs the Emperor that the Ice Calamity Witch has captured Iska. Alice and Rin are on their way home with an unconscious Iska in the back seat. Alice can't help but point out the dangers of having a former saint disciple with them. As such, Rin heads out to the nearest territory of Nebulis Sovereignty. At the Imperial Senate, Rissia informs them about the current situation and the Emperor's wishes. Rissia tells the Senate that the Ice Calamity Witch is taking Iska to the Sovereignty's 13th province, Alcatraz, the prison sector. Rissia also informs them about her rescue plan. Afterward, Rissia tells the rest of Unit N7 about the plan. To go through undetected, Rissia stamps artificial astral crests onto the hands of each member. At Alcatraz, Iska wakes up and realizes that Rin and Alice drugged him. The trio arrived at a hotel. At the same time, Unit N7 is granted passage to the city. Rin suggests putting Iska in chains to prevent him from escaping, but Alice declines. When Alice leaves, Rin comes up with a plan to deal with Iska. She will falsely claim that Iska attacked her and she fought back in self-defense. However, Alice walks in and sees that Rin is trying to kill Iska. Meanwhile, Unit N7 is in the prison tower trying to find Iska. However, Jin believes there's something else playing a larger role here. At the hotel, Alice chains herself to Iska to prevent him from escaping. Nevertheless, when Iska spots Alice's astral crest, the latter questions what Iska thinks about the mages. Iska replies with his captain's situation, saying that even though she has a crest, he will still respect her. The reason that Iska fights is not because of the astral crest. Iska sees Alice as a rival on the battlefield. This makes Alice feel happy. At the prison, Rissia visits Salinger, the transcendent demon. Salinger is surprised that Rissia could reach him. Rissia informs him that she has sovereign citizenship for special occasions. Nevertheless, Rissia is here to help Salinger escape. The Empire is planning a large-scale invasion, and they could use Salinger's help. They want Salinger to take revenge against the Queen, Nebulis 8, who put him in the cell in the first place. However, Salinger is not interested in vengeance and agrees to flee. Later that night, Iska can't sleep and opts to take in the night view. Alice joins him, and they talk about how all the dangerous criminals are in the Allalugan prison tower, especially the transcendent demon Salinger. Rin walks in and informs Alice that someone has infiltrated their borders. At the prison, the alarm goes off. Unit N7 tries their best to avoid the prison guards. But suddenly, a large explosion shakes the entire building. Rissia calls them and informs them about the commotion, and that Iska isn't at the prison. The team then makes their way through the prison and escapes. Rin informs Alice that Salinger has escaped. Alice tries to ask Iska for help, but she cuts him off before Iska can answer and walks away. At the prison, Jin wants to sacrifice himself for Miss, and Nini to escape. But before he can do that, Miss jumps in front of the guards in order to distract them. She succeeds, and Unit N7 manages to beat the guards. At the hotel, Iska answers a phone call from Miss. She explains to him their current situation. Iska picks up the handkerchief that Alice left behind and spots the key from his chains between the folds. After arriving at the prison, Alice and Rin assess the damages. Iska arrives near the prison and runs into the rest of N7. Miss returns to Iska his astral swords, and he heads to the prison to help Alice. Inside, a battle between Rin and Salinger ensues, but Salinger is too powerful for her. Before Salinger can deliver a deadly blow, Iska steps in and blocks it with his astral sword. Iska will assist Rin in her fight against Salinger on one condition. If Iska defeats the Salinger, Rin won't stop him and his friends from crossing the border and returning home. Rin agrees. Salinger can't seem to understand why Iska would fight for the sovereignty. Even so, he will go up against the former saint disciple. Somewhere, Sisbel looks at the night sky when Shevolts walks toward her. The princess asking about what is currently happening in their homeland. Shevolts responds, which concerns the young princess. Meanwhile, Iska is fighting against Salinger, a powerful opponent with extraordinary abilities. Salinger is impressed by Iska's fighting skills. Rin joins the fight, but the two are no match against Salinger. At the foreground, Alice orders the prison guards to search for Salinger when suddenly Nameless attacks her. Both are evenly matched. Alice is distracted by an explosion. She notices Salinger and Iska when she looks up. Salinger shows off his true ability, combining two opposing elements. Iska tries to get rid of the blast with his sword, but he's not able to, and he disappears into thin air. Only Rin is left, but Rin believes Iska is still alive and offers a distraction for Iska to deliver a blow. However, Iska misses his target and now is on the chase. Salinger has one more trick up his sleeve. Luckily, Rin is there to lend a hand with her golem. Alice appears and protects Rin from a deadly blow. Even with all his abilities, Salinger is not a match for Iska and his swords. Amused at fate for giving him an adversary, Salinger jumps into the prison's lower shaft. In the morning, Rin informs Alice that all prisoners have been accounted for and things have settled down around the site. The Imperial soldiers have likely left their borders. Nameless arrives back in Imperial territory. It's revealed that it was Rissia and Nameless's gear who fought Alice for research purposes. The goal of the mission was for the special forces to infiltrate the central province. At the Senate, the 8 great apostles discuss the events that just happened and the next step in their plans. Unit N7 manages to leave Nebulis territory without incident. Back home, Sisbel, who is the younger sister of Alice, eavesdrop her talk with Rin. Alice mentioning Iska's name piques her interest because that is the guy who broke her out of the facility a year ago. Rissia and Nameless report to the Emperor. He is bored with them trying to catch a purebred because something interesting just came up. A witch princess has fallen in love with an Imperial swordsman. Sisbel is tasked by her mom to investigate Alcemira. Despite being an independent nation, they have not declared their neutrality, and they suspect they may be secretly aiding the Empire. Meanwhile, the medical doctor is not happy that Miss team has been overworked. Because of that, they are forced to take 60 days of vacation. As Alice is swamped with administrative work, she takes a break and stumbles into Sisbel. However, the latter doesn't feel like talking to her and goes away. Sisbel soon leaves for Alcemira, and she has only her trusted butler, Schwartz, for company. As it is the moment where ministers meet to decide the next queen, she can't stand all that and believes the nightmare of somebody coming for her mother will come true. That person is also trying to take over the sovereignty. Sisbel wants to protect her mom but hopes she'll stay safe while she is gone. Meanwhile, Elatir, the eldest of the Loose sisters, has returned to talk to Masked Lord. She has a feeling that someone close to them is involved with the Empire and will shake their nation to the core. Unit N7 goes to Alcemira for the vacation. After a whole day of fun, as they head back to the hotel, Iska bumps into Sisbel. They recognize each other. But when Nini comes to pick up Iska, Sisbel is gone. Sisbel is happy, can't believe this coincidence, and thinks there is hope. She is going to ask Iska for help, so she makes her move by sneaking into his room that night. Iska intercepts her, thinking she is a spy. She then seeks his help to accompany her back to the Sovereignty. Meanwhile, the Queen has Alice and Rin help her look into Sisbel's room. As her mother, she is worried that Sisbel has been locking herself in her room. So they head into her room to find clues. Alice and Rin stumble upon a hidden article about Iska being imprisoned for rescuing a witch, leaving Alice in shock and wondering how Sisbel knows about Iska. Sisbel wants Iska to come with her to the Sovereignty, but he can't. Sisbel gives up for tonight but will come back for him again and leaves him a bracelet. Rin and Alice wonder if Sisbel suspects Alice of having connections with the Empire, and that's why she is secretly investigating this. So Rin talks to the Queen to convince her to let Alice go to Sisbel, and as sisters, they can work it out together. The Senate learns of Sisbel at Alcatraz. As their allies plan to capture her and hand her over to them, they will not waste this chance. They are initially cautious in deploying the object because they do not want that massive weapon to be linked back to them. But since capturing a purebred is so important, the witch hunt begins. Elatir tells the Masked Lord that her sisters are trying to contact the Empire. She considers sovereignty to be more important than the election, which is why she is risking telling him this in order to help stop them. Alice makes her way to Alcatraz. Along the way, she notices huge, unusual footprints. When she arrives, she stumbles into Schwartz, who is worried since he can't seem to find Sisbel. Iska changes hotels for his comrades since he can't let them get involved. After that, he goes to look for Sisbel. But she could find him because seeing her astral spirit allows her to see things from the past. Then she reveals to him her true identity and position. The reason she needs his help is because someone is targeting the Queen's life. Someone who is a descendant of the founder. This person is also not after the Sovereignty. When the Queen dies, there will be a full-scale war with the Empire, and the culprit will take this chance to seize on the confusion to eliminate the royal family. She is not asking him to defect from the Empire, but rather to assist in changing the future. Although Iska agrees with her, he still cannot go. Despite wanting the same outcome, Iska doesn't want to just stop the war but to resolve the 100-year conflict between the nations, which is done through peace negotiations. It sounds impossible that the Sovereignty will forgive the Empire, but that is his cause for fighting. The conversation is cut short because Masked Lord has arrived to apprehend Sisbel as a traitor. He won't listen to reason and has his men capture her. When Iska tries to talk things out, this huge mechanical beast pops up before them. While Iska and Nini fight the object, Lord Mask tries to intervene, but he gets stopped by Jin. Jin and Miss distract Lord Mask, but end up getting cornered. Jin manages to shoot at Lord Mask, but he hits the recorder, which contained the proof of Sisbel communicating with Iska. Lord Mask then tries to burn them using gasoline, but Miss uses her astral powers to extinguish the flames. As Jin takes a shot at Lord Mask, which causes him to retreat. Meanwhile, Nini attempts to attack the object, but it shields itself. Nini then retreats with the rest of the team to evacuate civilians while Iska and Sisbel fight with the object. During the battle, an astral spirit comes out and traps Sisbel inside. Alice suddenly arrives, leading to her and Iska once again teaming up, and they destroy the object. After the fight, Sisbel asks Alice and Iska if they are acquainted, which they deny. Sisbel then says that she wants Iska to be her knight. However, Iska manages to get out of the situation when his friends call for him. In the aftermath, the Senate notes the setback after the loss of object, but they aren't disheartened. Time to move on to the next phase. The Emperor is out because he went to see Salinger. The Queen summons Elatir, and knows she leaked intel about where Sisbel was. She also questions if she is the real Elatir. Finally, they try to troll us with Iska and Alice being this close proximity. Of course they part ways and will see each other again. At the rate they keep bumping to each other. If you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching till the end.